Hey guys, daskro here again. Another episode of Tank School, episode 6. Already 6 episodes in? What's this episode about? This is about more advanced stuff. It's the role of the tank in various gameplay types. This is taking everything that we know in the first 5 episodes and talking about it as it relates to different game modes. And in some cases, different maps. First topic is going to be different objectives equals different gameplay. Talking, generally speaking, about what we had to think about when we talk about the different kinds of maps out there, different types of gameplays out there, and how we need to adjust our style. And we're going to talk about Conquest Small and Conquest Large. What are the differences between the two, and what do you have to worry about for each one? And we're going to talk about Rush, which is something that I don't play a lot of, but I can still speak a little bit to it. And then finally, Tank Ority, the new expansion game mode for Armored Kill. So let's go right into the first subject. Different objectives equals different gameplay. This one's pretty straightforward. What are we trying to accomplish? So many in these last episodes I have mentioned that what is the objective? What are we trying to accomplish? And this is talking about really what our objective shouldn't be. We have to ask ourselves these kind of questions. Is our team winning or losing? Do we have most of the points, or we have not most of the points, minority of the points? Should we be trying to cap points, or should we try to hold points? There are certain points that you may want to hold even though it may not give you the majority. And so in these new Armored Kill maps, holding the AC 130 point may be conducive, because if you don't hold it, then the AC 130 is in the enemy's hands, and then you're in trouble. And perhaps you need that additional asset. Everyone's AC 130 is an asset to bring the fold and to take on those enemy cap points when you're able to get that asset up and in the right position. The next one is, and this is more talking about Rush. Are you playing attackers or defenders? And if you're playing attackers, do you really need to wait and push when all the other infantry guys are there? Because you surely, as a tank guy, are not going to be able to plant that MCOM bomb. Or are you a defender? Are you going to be there to simply keep the infantry out of your way? And if you can do that, and if you can stop them from getting the MCOM point, then you can win the game. Playing defender is a whole lot different from playing attackers. And I'll talk a little bit more about this in the Rush segment coming up. Next thing, are you turtle leader pushing? This is more a question of when you are in a given area, are you trying to just hold the line, or are you actually trying to be aggressive? Being aggressive is highly dependent on whether or not you're trying to take out an individual asset, such as an AA vehicle or such as a rocket artillery, or if you're just trying to dissuade the enemy infantry or enemy vehicles from pushing up on you. Oftentimes, you'll have a situation where you're getting dominated by the air power, right? You're getting dominated by that attack helicopter, by those jets, and you think to yourself, man, our jets are so bad. They are so bad. Why can't they help me? They are killing me. They are literally killing my vehicle because they are not here. But then you say, oh, wait a second. It's because their AA vehicle is super good and are destroying our jets and helicopters like mad. I, as a tank, need to try to take out that enemy anti-aircraft vehicle, and if I do, I'll be able to stay up. The question of being aggressive versus being passive in a situation like that. You have to ask yourself what is really going on, and then act accordingly. And then finally, on this section, is the map linear or not? Now, I have mentioned this in previous videos, but I think I have to really reiterate it, because it may be something that is not as understandable as I may make it out to be. Let's take two different maps. Operation Firestorm on the left, then the right, Tehran Highway Conquest. The Operation Firestorm map is a non-linear map, whereas Tehran is a very linear map. What do I mean by this? Let's draw it out. So, take Tehran Highway for instance. How do you get to B from US side? Well, you can take the road here into B, or maybe you can take it here and then go around. Well, that's a really long route. Or maybe you can take it maybe here and go that way. You're really talking about maybe 2, maybe 3 routes. Maybe if you want to include some flanking positions, we could talk about how you could go around this way and go around. But if I actually draw this out, not in terms of pathways, but in terms of bottlenecks, I basically can access B from here, here, or here. That's it. Likewise, Russia is a very similar situation. They can push in this way. They can push in over that way. They can go around C and push in through B here, or they can push in through here. But really, again, let's draw this out again. So U.S. side bottlenecks there, Russian side bottlenecks basically here. 3 bottlenecks on each side. That's it. How is this different than Operation Firestorm? Operation Firestorm. Now let's remember there's some mountains here and there. So I'm going to draw out some mountains. You got some mountains in RU, and you got a big mountain on U.S. side, right? These aren't representative topographical lines. They are just my attempt at doing it. And we got a little hill here, but it's very small. It's a ridge almost. What are the points that the U.S. can take? Well, the U.S. can go around here. The U.S. can go around here. They can go basically everywhere. There's really no bottlenecks in all this. Sure, things can be seen, but RU's in a very similar situation. They can go all the way around this way. They can go around this way. And the reason why this is a big deal, I'm going to draw lines on both sides, is that you can go in and hit from any direction, basically. Now, it doesn't mean you can't see them coming. You can see them coming, but there's no bottlenecks. They can flank around left and right, and it's not going to stop you. It's not as if that if you know that, oh, if we just put enough tanks here on road, or enough infantry on road, then we'll stop them from pushing into A, B, and D. No, they can go around this way. They can go around this way. Firestorm is a nonlinear map. It means there's many different avenues of attack relative to a linear map like Tehran Highway, which is very fixed. You know that they're going to be coming from one direction. Firestorm, not so much. They're going to be coming from 2 or 3 different directions. This is so important for tanking because on a linear map like Tehran Highway, if I'm playing in a certain position, let's just pretend for a second that I am playing right here in a tank. I know that for the most part, I'm going to be engaging probably within this what's that, 140 degrees of angle, basically. And even then, it's really not even that because there's a lot of dead zone in there. So maybe it's here. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's showing people here, but really the tanks are going to be just around these areas. Not the case with Firestorm. Firestorm, I have to be much more aware of my periphery. And because of that, I have to play differently. I can play a lot more aggressively on Tehran Highway because I know, based on how the map is laid out, that I can assume that there's going to be a lot of places that enemy tank or enemy infantry are not going to be. Do you see how that sort of logically makes sense, that since I can build my assumption set over the limitations of where the enemy can and can't go, I only have to concentrate on a few different areas? That's what makes really good tankers versus not so good tankers, is knowing the limitations of the map and the topography, and then layering that with where your friendlies are, because then you can additionally assume other areas that you don't have to worry about. So as an example, if I'm playing right here on this highway, I may say my periphery is only right here, right? But you say, well, wait a minute, daskro, you just said there's a bottleneck right here. Why aren't you looking at the back here? Well, I may say, okay, well, I know that I have 2 guys, 2 friendlies here in this little construction area, and they're going to let me know prior to that tank being able to push up that a tank's pushing up. They'll say, or I'll just see them die. They won't even say anything. Maybe I'll just see a bit, so the crossbones, the skull and bones, whatever it is, the pirate sign, right here. Right here. And I'll say, or I'll just know their names. Say, player XYZ has died. And I know he's died, which means I know there's a guy coming up, and I need to react accordingly. That kind of mentality is what makes good tankers. Now, enough about theory stuff. Let's go right into talk about Conquest. So talk about Conquest with lots of players, lots of players. What do you do in that scenario when you tank? Well, depending on how organized the enemy team is and how organized your team is, you're gonna deal with a variety of laser locking stuff. Talking about laser locking on the helicopters, on the CITVs and the tanks, and on SOFLAMs. You gotta be worried about those SOFLAMs because they're gonna lock onto you. And you may say, well, daskro, I'm running infrared, or perhaps I'm running infrared smoke or IR smoke. I'm going to pop it, and then I'll be fine because I'll maneuver my way out of there. And I say that's fine, but you have to recognize. That because there's a lot of SOFLAMs up, it also means there's probably a lot of guys with Javelin, a lot of guys with guided missile or what have you, and they're going to be locking onto you, and they're going to be throwing some subsequent volleys to you beyond the first one that dodges. And so be very, very careful about that. Maneuver quickly out of the range of that laser targeting fixture, whatever it may be, because there's surely going to be more than one missile coming at you. The next thing we have to worry about is when we take enemy cap points, especially if it's a big, 64-man, completely populated server. There's going to be a lot of engineers there. There's going to be a lot of rockets. There's going to be a lot of landmines there. You have to be incredibly careful, and you should only be pushing up in those areas when you know that you have a dedicated infantry force, or there's an infantry wave, alternatively, that's pushing with you. Because without them there, you are going to die within 15 seconds, easily. The big tank crew is also a factor. This when you have more people on your team, you have more dedicated crew guys with you. You have a CTV guy, you got a gutter guy, you got a repair crew, you got an infantry guy. I mean, just running along. He can't jump on the tank because he just can't. I don't know. He just can't jump that high. But he's going with you. But don't get cocky. Just because you got all those guys there does not mean they can't do a bunch of damage to you. They can throw 3 or 4 rockets at you, or you get hit by a landmine, and you'll go down just like that. It doesn't matter if you have 2 or 3 repair guys repairing you. If they do more than 100 damage to you within 5-6 seconds, you're done. Sorry. So don't get cocky when you have all those guys with you. Air control is a factor. It's a factor because there's going to be a lot more stuff in the air, like helicopters, attack helicopters, jets, transport helicopters, other things of that nature. Worry about them, but remember, you're going to have an AA vehicle with you, so hopefully your AA vehicle does a good job. But just remember, be cognizant of them. Be cognizant of that air threat and try to adjust accordingly. Now, since you have a CITV guy with you, you can go guided, and you can use that CITV guide to laser lock and destroy those enemy air assets. So remember that is always an option. Do that swap like I talked about in episode 5, and it's something that you can mitigate. And then finally, stay together with other tanks. Sticking together with the other tanks is really important because there's going to be a lot of other vehicles there. And since there's a lot of other vehicles there, the strength in numbers is really important. Think about Operation Firestorm. Think about some of the new Armored Kill maps, where there's a bunch of tanks. Stick together, because you go down so quickly, and you need to have those extra guys there in order to stay up and get those kills and get those reps and go from there. So that's Conquest, so many players, but how is it different, though, when we lower that player count? Go to Conquest Small, or only do 16 versus 16? This is where it gets a bit interesting. So the first thing is that you're going to notice there's going to be a whole lot less SOFLAMs and a whole lot less guided missiles and rockets and javelins and other things of that nature. There's going to be a whole lot more RPG-7s and a whole lot more SMAs. That's just something that's expected of it, because when you get to a lower team size, there's a question of, well, do I want to dedicate one less guy to assault and have him go recon, or just want to have my more assault guys? And usually most teams and players, they'll go for less recon, less support, and because of that, they'll have a situation where they'll simply not have as many CITVs up, or not as many SOFLAMs up. Related to this is, when you're going to find these AT guys, they may be in groups of 3 or 4 at the very most, but it means you can be more aggressive when you capture these points, because there may be 4 or 5 guys holding a point at the most, but only 2 or 3 of them may be AT at the most. It's very easy. You can be a lot more aggressive in the tank and clearing those points out because there's less of an AT threat. Now, like I mentioned with this lack of SOFLAMs and lack of CITV, there's also going to be less tank crew for you. It's unlikely that you're going to have a dedicated CITV and a gunner guy. You may have one gunner, or a guy that's doing a combination, but you probably won't have enough for 2. So play accordingly. Know that you are not going to be invincible, and that if you take some damage, you have one repair guy, and if he goes down, you're in trouble. So while you could be a whole lot more aggressive in capturing those points, recognize that if you take a lot more damage than what you think you can take, then you're going to die. Sorry, that's how it's going to work. And then air control will determine the movement. This is big because on maps that do have dedicated jets and attack helicopters, there's not going to be an AA vehicle. And because of that, it's going to be a lot more determinant over how successful or unsuccessful your jet pilots are. If they go down, those enemy air assets are going to dominate you. They're going to be really hard to take out. And since you only have one guy with you, it means you're going to be able to repair less. It means you may not be able to get that CITV and get that laser lock on him as easily. Something that we have to remember. So play accordingly. What does that mean? It means Seek cover when you see a jet coming your way. Maneuver around so that jet or that enemy helicopter has a hard time hitting you. Get under some trees. Get under the gas station, whatever it may be. Although, be careful, the gas station could blow up, so be careful on that one. And finally, you will likely be the 1 or 2 only tanks there. You can save the air tank guy, there's 2 tanks, but remember, you'll likely be the lone tank. And so you're not going to have a lot of backup. So again, you want to be aggressive when you need to be in capturing those points, but don't be so aggressive that you're out in the open and you're just a sitting target. Don't be like that. So that's Conquest Small. Let's go into the next game mode. Next game mode is Rush. Now, I don't have a lot of competitive experience with Rush. I played quite a bit of Rush in pubs, and so these are sort of my observations. I would only imagine that there are people that are much more experienced with Rush that could probably correct me on some things that I say, but here are my observations of it. First, focus on the MCOM. It's attacking the MCOM and defending the MCOM. There are certain critical assets you probably want to take out, such as an enemy tank defending so that your infantry guys can push through. But again, it's all about getting those MCOM attacks or defends and putting that explosive down or what have you. Unlike some Conquest maps, Rush is an incredibly linear map. Because of that, you can fight in certain areas and you can then can know that there will only be certain lanes you get to hold and worry about. Next off, the vehicles are rarely even at any given stage. There's usually some kind of vehicle imbalance. And so it's not necessarily going to be a tank versus tank battle. It may be a tank versus infantry battle or lots of tanks versus one tank battle. And so change your perk layout accordingly depending on what kind of adversary you're going to be playing against. It's going to change based off of what stage you're in and what map you're playing in. Air control is a big factor as well. We're seeing this right now with the AC-130 and the Armored Kill Rush maps. But remember, even on the non-rush maps where you have the A-10, the Frogfoot, they will destroy you as a tank, and you have to be cognizant of the fact that you may be in a very compromised situation when you're going against those air vehicles, especially if yours aren't up. And then, lastly, you'll, again, likely be the lone tank, just like in Conquest Small, because you'll be the only one or 2 tanks on a lot of these rush maps. So you will be that only guy. You may have a few more guys in your squad to play, but for the most part, it's going to be just you. And last topic is tank superiority. Let's go through this real quickly. With tank superiority, the first thing we have to know is that tank numbers are key. Sit together with your team because your teammates are going to be the ones that keep you alive. They are, because if you can get multiple shots on those guys very quickly, you're going to be able to take out those tanks a whole lot faster. And then you can sit back and relax as those tanks go down and repair your tank and continue forward and get that tank superiority flag. It's really King of the Hill, but it's still using the Conquest game mode in the sense that it bleeds the enemy tickets. But you gotta stay alive with your teammates. If you have the tank crews and you actually have it with you, you can play aggressively. In fact, you really have to, because if you are there with your tank teammates, get some RPGs and got some javelins, you can really do a lot of damage really fast. You can take out these enemy tanks really quickly, and it's really, really satisfying to get those tank kills. There's going to be a lot of guided missiles and a lot of javelins and a lot of CITV and a lot of SOFLAMs. So use your smoke or use your thermal camo and play accordingly. Just because you pop your smoke does not mean you're invulnerable. There will be subsequent guided missiles and subsequent laser locks coming at you, and you have to get out of there very quickly. And luckily with the tank destroyers, you can maneuver very, very quickly in that respect as well. Finally, the rockets are everywhere. There's going to be a lot of RPG guys, so be careful on that. The next two, these two are, I think by far the most important. Be a moving target or die standing still. Because if you sit still, they're going to be able to zero in on your shot a lot easier, on your tank a lot faster, and you're going to go down really fast. So be careful about that. And then finally, fight with the air tanks. When you fight those air tanks, you need to be able to play in a way that allows you to get those power numbers like I mentioned before. And I do want to go back one bit about this moving target stuff. It may be very difficult for you guys to move and shoot at the same time. In a move and shoot a hitting target. Or, excuse me, move while shooting and hitting a moving target at the same time. It is difficult, but if you practice enough, you can do it. It's not that hard. You just got to get the feel for it. Lead those shots accordingly. No, fire not when you have the best shot necessarily, but fire when you have the most accurate shot. Because you're going to be moving around, hitting those bumps back and forth, and you're going to need to be able to accurately hit the shot. It's better to hit them and not do any damage, or do very little damage, than to not hit him at all. Get those shots. But stay moving target so he can't hit you as easily, and eventually get those kills and be successful. That's the end of this episode, episode 6, Tank School, and we'll talk about some really advanced stuff in episode 7. We're going to be talking about advanced perk discussion and some discussion on some different types of case studies, looking at different types of examples and why certain things did or didn't work right. That's the end of this episode. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you later.